On January 13, 2026, the Ukrainian rear was no longer a sanctuary. The war that once centered on trenches and artillery now burned across oil depots, grain terminals, and open sea lanes. Russian UAVs did not merely strike targets. They rewrote the geography of the conflict. From Crimea to Odesa, from inland refineries to Panama, flag tankers drifting off the coast, Russia's drone fleet demonstrated that Ukraine's logistical spine could be touched anywhere, anytime, at a fraction of the cost of Western-supplied air defense. These were not symbolic raids. They were methodical economic and military amputations carried out by systems like the BM-35 and BMP-25. Telegram. OSINT channels such as Uncensored News and Warfare gave the world front-row access to the battlefield reality as explosions rippled through Ukrainian energy infrastructure and maritime trade arteries on January 13, 2026. What emerged was not chaos, but doctrine. Russia was no longer just striking Ukraine. It was throttling Ukraine. January 13, 2026 marked a turning point. It was the moment when Russia fused energy warfare and maritime warfare into one seamless drone campaign. Early that day, Uncensored News published footage of BM-35 drones slamming into Ukrainian oil depots. Fireballs erupted. Secondary explosions followed. These were not empty tanks. They were fuel hubs, supplying Ukrainian armored brigades and diesel generators, keeping radar stations alive. Every burning depot meant fewer tanks moving and fewer radars seeing. Later that same day, the campaign moved offshore. Uncensored News Telegram channel reported that a BMP-25 drone struck a grain ship off Odesa. This was not random. Grain exports are Ukraine's economic lifeline. Disrupt them, and Kyiv bleeds cash, leverage, and diplomatic credibility. Military News added further detail on this strike. A Panama flag tanker waiting to load vegetable oil in Odesa was hit. A San Marino flagged corn carrier departing port was also attacked. These were not military ships. They were the arteries of Ukraine's Black Sea economy. The message was unmistakable. If Ukraine uses the Black Sea as a logistics highway, Russia will turn it into a minefield. Visual OSINT showed listing hulls, burning decks, and emergency crews scrambling. A single drone costing tens of thousands of dollars had just disabled ships carrying tens of millions of dollars in cargo. This was asymmetric warfare, perfected, and it did not come out of nowhere. If we throw back to December 2025, Russian drones had already struck Turkish ferries and oil carriers at Odesa, forcing Ukraine to divert Gepard systems and naval air defenses away from the front lines. Western analysts still talk about Shaheds as if they were crude terror weapons. That narrative collapsed long ago. Since 2022, Russian drone warfare has evolved from harassment into strategic paralysis. The January 12th to 13th overnight operation that saw over 156 UAVs launched against Ukraine confirmed that this was now a mature operational system. By 2025 and into 2026, Russia was no longer relying only on Iranian-designed Shahed 136s. It had introduced indigenized platforms like the BM-35, a fiber optic-guided loitering munition with advanced navigation, hardened resistance to jamming, and a 40 to 50 kilogram warhead capable of demolishing oil tanks and pier infrastructure, fraction of what it takes to shoot them down. This economic asymmetry is the quiet killer of Ukraine's air defense. Every drone forces Kyiv to choose: defend a city or a refinery, protect the front line or protect a port. And Russia has learned how to overwhelm that choice. Russian UAVs now fly in coordinated swarms. Decoys draw radar fire. Electronic warfare blinds Ukrainian sensors. Low-altitude sea-skimming routes avoid detection. By the time Ukrainian air defense realizes what is coming, the real strike wave is already inside the engagement envelope. The Russian Ministry of Defense has openly acknowledged this layered approach, claiming 60 to 70% penetration rates against Western systems, including S-300, Patriot, and NASAMS. Ukraine is now fighting two wars at once, one on the front lines, one in its logistics bloodstream. Energy strikes reduce refinery output. That means fewer vehicles, fewer generators, fewer command nodes. According to OSINT tallies, Ukraine has already lost 20 to 30% of its refining capacity since mid-2025 due to sustained Russian drone and missile attacks. Maritime strikes compound the crisis. Ukraine exports up to 80% of its grain and vegetable oil through Black Sea ports. Every ship forced to turn back is a financial hit and a political problem for Kyiv's Western backers. Russia, meanwhile, is scaling production. Estimates suggest Moscow is now producing over 10,000 drones annually, allowing it to maintain relentless pressure without exhausting its high-end missile inventory. In line with it, Ukraine's response has been improvised. Yak-52 trainer aircraft have been used to chase drones over Odesa. FPV interceptors scramble to catch sea-skimming UAVs. But every defensive adaptation costs money and manpower that Ukraine does not have in surplus. And hovering over all of this is Russia's broader escalation ladder. On January 9th, Moscow confirmed the use of a hypersonic Oreshnik missile near Ukraine's EU border. The message was layered: drones for attrition, hypersonics for deterrence. This was not a tactical strike, but a strategic signal, proving that Russia retains the ability to escalate instantly from drone attrition to theater-level shock weapons capable of reaching NATO-adjacent infrastructure within minutes. Together, they form a system designed not just to fight Ukraine, but to warn NATO as Ukraine and NATO scramble to patch holes with ever more expensive interceptors, radar upgrades, and emergency aid packages. The skies grow more crowded, but no more secure. Each defensive layer adds cost, delay, and political friction. Russia, by contrast, keeps flying high in the air, sending wave after wave of drones and missiles that cut through logistics, energy, and trade with relentless, calculated pressure. What do you think of this? Share it below. Until then, thanks for watching.